Other is cannot follow, cannot compete with the object-oriented concept. You already realize. Any way to represent the multiple location, multi-value data? No, we cannot do that. Because of that, when we convert the multi-value data attribute to the relational model, we create the relation table. If we can use the object-oriented concept, it's much simpler. And also superclass and subclasses. There's no way to represent. So we, in the relational model, so we decide to use option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. But if we use the object-oriented concept, it's very simple. We can define the class, and we can instantiate the, we define the object and instantiate the class, so we can use that class for the database object. That is object-oriented concept. But such a big three, the company, they don't want to be risky. If they change the relational model to the object-oriented model, it's not guaranteed whether they can keep the same market, same pie. So because of it, they don't invest a lot. They don't want to change the database model. So that is actually the biggest problem in database area. Because of that, in academia, university and the research center, they don't research about the relational model. Instead, nowadays, it's a little bit changed because of the big data concept. So they try to use it's called the NoSQL database. It's not SQL. Somebody says not only SQL. So there is another way to access, to manage, to manipulate the data. So that is a NoSQL database because of the big data. Because of that, even big three, this company, adapt idea of the big data, NoSQL database. Actually, it doesn't make sense. Because of due to the problem of the relational model, many people would like to make the NoSQL database, but the relational database company adapt idea of the NoSQL database. So actually it doesn't make sense, but it's happened in the market. So that is the short story of the relational database model and the SQL, especially SQL. One of the benefits of using the SQL is the standardized. Unlike the other programming languages in computer and computer science. For example, in 1986, even many of the researchers and the company, they get together, they design the standard of SQL. Then there's a major revision in 1992, which is called the SQL 2 standard. Most of the SQL database languages that you are going to learn and that you are going to use, 99% is a SQL 2 standard. Then they add a little bit more the additional concept like the object-oriented concept or the recursive query in 1999, the SQL 3. Unfortunately, there was another standard, 2003, but as I mentioned, the big three company, they don't want to share their pie. So from this, until this one, that standard was free standard, which means if I adapt the idea of a model of this standard in the database, yes, it's free, I can make the commercialized software or whatever. However, if I adapt the standard from the SQL 2003, which means I need to pay royalty to that group. Because of that, there are not many open source. Because you need to pay for the money to this group. So that is another big problem in the database market. However, for me, it's good. I can still teach relational model the last 10 years, but I don't think I can teach the relational model forever, but it will be changed within 5 to 10 years. But it cannot be stopped the right way. Because still after you graduate, you will realize most of the company, they are using the relational database management system. Okay, so we are going to learn how to use the SQL. So first you need to understand the schema. What is a schema? We used the concept of schema before. Relational schema diagram. Relational schema. What does that mean, schema? Schema, it means describe. It describes your database. Okay? So, in other words, the SQL schema means I try to create the company database. Okay? So, I try to name my anything, table, index, whatever the database object. I try to make such a database object for UB. Okay? Under the name UB, I try to create everything. So it's a UB database. At that time, this UB is called UB schema. So anything that you are going to use or create within UB schema is a description of your database. So this is called the schema. Okay, so before you start to create your database, you need to create the schema first. However, probably even though you have the experience on using the database or the Oracle Informix, you never create the schema explicitly. Not many the database, the project use such a schema name. That doesn't mean you don't have to create you do not need the schema. Instead, your database username, DB username, for example, in my case, it's JELEE. So if I create anything, database with this username, automatically schema name is my username. Because of that, so you will realize later after you create the employee, it will be JELE, your username dot employee. Okay, this is the name of schema. So automatically, if you do not create the schema name explicitly, that means your username will be used for the schema name. Okay. However, anyway, this anything, any element, any database object is under your database schema. Okay. Sometimes big project, big database project or big database, you create the, for example, the engineering schema or the staff schema, professor schema, something like that. Okay. Then how can we create the schema? So create the schema company and authorization, which means you give the permission to the JSmith user. If you do not create the create schema, using create schema, that means your database username will be used for the schema name. Okay. This is one important thing before we start to learn the SQL. Database language SQL is not case sensitive. Okay? Which means if you type the exact same one, there's no difference. Okay? And also, what about the name of database object? For example, if I type the company at the lower letter, it's exactly the same. However, depending on your project manager sometimes has his or her own naming rule. Also, they ask in your statement, please use the capital letter only. So you do better follow such a naming rule in your project group, project team. Okay. Another thing is, just like the other program languages, SQL has reserved word. In this case, the red one is the reserved word, create schema. And authorization is the reserved word. Reserved word cannot be used for the name of database object. It cannot be the database table. Also, most of the query languages, SQL languages are very, very high level. It's very close to the human language. So you can actually guess the command. How can create the table? Create table. How can create the index? Create index. How to remove table? Drop table. Very straightforward. So it's not very difficult to identify what is the reserved word and the syntax. However, details of the syntax is just like the other program languages. It's very detailed, but you are not going to use all of the feature. Just in case you need, you can find the manual, reference book. Okay, like the cookbook. When you make the something food, do you read the cookbook from page 1 through the end of the book? No. Whenever you need, I'd like to make a pasta, so you will look up only the page that explain recipe for the pasta. It's the same thing. When you learn the language, any language, do not try to read and memorize everything. Just whenever you need, you should be able to find the location, one point that explains the details. So it's the same thing, database. Before we start, okay, one of the benefits using the database, okay, there are several important advantages of using database, the approach. One of them is self-describing nature. Do you remember that characteristic, self-describing nature? Comparing to the file system. What is the self-describing nature?
It can, when we give the queries, it can find it itself. It manages the database management system itself, manages the query. But in file system, we have to do it manually.
What do you need to manage? Data structure. How data is organized. In terms of relational model, what is the attribute, what is the table name, what is the type of the data, something like that. These information are stored at the database. Also, that information are stored at the database using relational model. So in other words, I'd like to get the all information about the table in my database. Your database model, database definition are stored at the somewhere in your database using the form of relational model, which means table. These are the tables that you can find, especially in Oracle only. These are not standardized. So each DBMS has the different name of that. But for example, Oracle, where can you find the table information? User underbar tables. What about this one? User underbar tab underbar columns. It's a column information for the table. What about this? It's a column information with the statistics. How many data are stored for the column and what is the distribution. And in case of a partition table, there are more than 200 such which is called catalog tables. Informatics has its own catalog database, DB2 has its own, but because we are using the Oracle database, these are the basic catalog database that you can search. Okay. How can we search the data? Using SQL that we are going to learn. So you don't have to learn separate the language to access such a catalog information. You can use select from where to access such a data. Okay? Then, first, when I learned the relational model first time, I decided to insert the Oracle database. So I download, it takes several hours, 20 years ago, because of the narrow bandwidth. Then I download almost 1 gigabyte size of the Oracle install program, then install, and sometimes finally I install. So I start the database, then I realized that there is nothing I can do. After you install, there's nothing. right? So then many of the students actually give up after installation because you don't have anything to use such a database. So to utilize your DBMS database system, first thing is you need to create the database. Okay? So after you create either you can use the default schema or you can create your own schema. After that, first thing we need to create the table. Okay? The first command that we are going to learn is create table. What is the reserved word? Create table. It's a straightforward, very straightforward way. Okay? Then followed by name of table. Is it case sensitive? No, actually not case sensitive. It can be the lower letter. Doesn't matter. But we prefer to use capital letter for the command. Then parentheses. And then followed by the semicolon. That this semicolon means
End of the
it's the end of statement. You inform to the database, the system, that this is the end of statement. Okay? Then database language is interpreter. It uses the interpreter. What is the interpreter? It's a line by line compile. Okay? It's not like the procedural language. Okay? So it's a line by line compile. It's an interpreter. So the semicolon will be useful where is the end of statement. Then once this one is identified, then compile and execute. We will see later detail how it can be processed. Then within parentheses, you can give list of attributes that you define, that you model. So, and separate by the comma, comma, comma. How many attributes in this table? 4 tables. At that time, this is mandatory. Column name or attribute name. You can use the space blank. You can use the double space. Anyway, as long as you have the space, it's okay. Also, you can use the tab. It doesn't matter. But you need to give at least one space between this one and this is called data type. So, column name, data type. These are the mandatory. Okay? You should have the at least one table name and at least one data type. But we didn't learn anything about the data type. Instead, we learned domain. Okay? How can we get the database, the department name? We have big bucket. So D name, domain. So there are all possible database, the department name. We can pick up one of them. Practically, it's not easy to implement. Instead, we are going to use data type. So first, we will see the data type used in the SQL. It's very generic. Okay, most of them are generic, including number. You can see the integer type, you know what it is, and the int. Their internal data structure are different from other program languages. For example, Java uses 4 bytes for the integer and the double, but database use the different. But for the user, it's the same as other languages. Integer, int, float, decimal, double, and any generic are adaptive to the SQL. And also character. One of the benefits of using the database language is very easy and convenient to handle string data, such as character, and we have, this is a new one. Have you ever seen this in other program languages? Probably not. And also, this is called sometimes a variable character. Or somebody said it's a varchar. Okay? It doesn't matter, varchar or the variable character. And also we have variable character too, which means character is the fixed length. So if you specify the 10, 10 byte will be reserved, even though your data is LEE 3 byte, 10 byte will be reserved. On the other hand, variable character 10 means maximum size. So if I insert only 3 byte, only 3 byte will be used for actually 1 word end of data. Okay, null terminator, but it's a little bit slightly different from the C languages. So let's say the 3 byte. Then if somebody update, it can be increase up to 10 byte. That is the variable character. So which one is better, character or variable character?
Variable character.
Mostly variable character, but not always, because you need to increase every time. So some of the system prefer character still. Or if you are like the social security number, is it variable?
No.
Always 9 or 10? 9. Okay, it's a 9-digit number. It's the different problem. We will see later whether social security number is the number or the character. But anyway, so variable character is the variable length, while the character is the fixed length. What about the variable character 2? Homework. Find what's the difference. Okay, you don't have to write, you don't have to submit, just research. And if I ask but you cannot answer, I will deduct the point. So why don't you search the difference between the variable character and variable character 2. And also, we have the Boolean true or false. One more thing? Null. Because null is very important to define the relational model, not existing. And also another benefit of using the SQL data type is date and time are very, very convenient. Okay. Also using this one, there are a lot of functions to manipulate the date and time, like the number of days or period or something, the arithmetic operation of this one, date plus and time. We have BLOB, CLOB. There's another one, whatever. What is the LOB? It's a large object block. Okay?
Large object block.
Block. B-L-O-B. Block. It's a chunk. Okay? Large object block. It's a LOB. Why do we need such a thing? Why do we need a large object block?
Images, videos.
Yes. For example, actually the relational model is for alphabet and numeric data, text information. However, nowadays think about the document. So character, for example, I define the message as a variable character 2000. What about the entire, somebody write a very long message, is 10 pages long. So it's not enough. So we need to specialize the data type that is a CLOB, character large object, or binary. Sometimes I'd like to create the attribute column for image. Even though image itself is nothing but 0 or 1, it's not character, it's not number. Right? So different data structures. To keep such a binary data, the binary will be low. So these are supported but not very useful in relational model. Not many systems use such a block or CLOB. Why? Because the relational model basically has been developed for alphanumeric data, not such a special data type. So these are the popular data type. So why don't you figure it out what is the difference between character and the variable character too. So we can select one of the data type instead of domain. But data type is much simpler than such a domain. Okay, domain is so many different cases. So for example here, the name is defined as the variable character 10. D number, integer, manager social security number, character 9 byte, manager start date, character 9 byte. Even though SSN is the number, actually it's a kind of identification, right? Like the name. It's not like the number. We do not actually calculate the social security number a lot. So we'd better use the character instead of the number. Okay? Then, what about the zip code? Which one is better? Number or character? Character is the better. Why? 0660104. It's a zip code of the UB. If you are using number, 0 is not recognized. Right? It's just nothing but 6,604. Because of that, some of the so bad, the site, if you type the 06604, it recognizes as the 6604. Then it cannot compare. But really, that happened. Some of the really bad model, the site. Okay, so finally we can have the such a. Then additional thing is this one. So these name and data type are mandatory. So not optional. Should have this pair, followed by optional constraint. So for example, if the name is not null, which means you should have the value for the database name or the department name, then it's a not null condition. It's a constraint. You can add any constraint followed by the data type. What other the constraint you have? Non-null and primary key or secondary key and foreign key. These constraints can be added followed by here. Okay. However, sometimes then there might be no problem. You can submit using application. In our practice, we are going to use SQL plus application. This is the software that can understand and execute the SQL language in Oracle only. Each DBMS has their own application program, and the Oracle has the SQL Plus, and Informix has the DB Access, and MySQL has DB and MySQL, and DB2 has the DB2. So these are the examples of application program that can understand and execute, but only for their own DBMS. So in our practice, we are going to use the SQL Plus to practice your SQL, the language. So this is one of the examples. What about this one? Sometimes this is the same as the previous one, even though names are different. The reason why I put the difference because some of the students complain. After they create a table with this one, you cannot create the table with the same name. You need to change. You need to drop the table first. So other name you can create up to this one, but there's an additional comma that specifies primary key, unique, and foreign key. So there are different ways of using the constraint. You can add the constraint followed by column inside the column 9. Or second option is you can add the constraint after the last column. Okay, attribute. In this case, after manager start date, you can, but don't forget comma until end of the constraint. You should have the comma separator. Then primary key, you can specify the primary key D number. So D number is the primary key. Unique is a secondary key. Okay, we have many keys, right? Among them, we select one of them as a primary key. The other is a secondary key. So secondary key is the unique. Then foreign key. Foreign key, you should have the two attributes. One is referencing from here to here. So this manager social security number refer SSN in EMP table. So you can add the constraint after the column list. Yes?
So which is the primary here? In foreign key?
In this case, primary key is the D number. This is the D number.
No, sir. For the foreign key, it comes. Which one comes from outside? SSN or?
Yeah, and manager social security number is from here because it's like the department, manager, social security number, and employee. SSN is the primary key, so refer this one. This is the implementation of this foreign key.
And for the table before, if we created the table without the constraint and we...
That is the last option that you can do. So this one is better than this. Why? Because for example, sometimes you have the composite primary key, DNA. You cannot create the composite primary key using this one. So most of case, except the non-null. Non-null is only column by column constraint. So non-null is usually added to the column name, column list. Then you can add the other constraint like this one. This is the second option. Before that, what if you execute this one right away? So you have the laptop and login and running. Any problem? You cannot create. You will get the error message, even though there is no syntax error. Why? Because you do not have this one. So you need to first create this table first. So it will be complicated because employee has also the foreign key and so to address that problem, first you can create the table without any constraint. Non-null is okay because it's a column by column. After you create it, you can add the primary key. You can add unique key. You can add the foreign key using alter table and table name, add primary key or add unique, add foreign key like that. You can add. This is the most popular way. Third way, okay? So it's after you create, because of the constraint. So in case you do not have the table or the data are not matched, you cannot create. So to address that problem, first you can create the table without any constraint, then later you can add it. Also, this way is better when you have very large data. When you have the very large data with the constraint, whenever you insert the data, whenever you populate data, they will check the primary key. They will check the unique key. They will check the foreign key. It takes a long time. Instead, why don't we create the table